Hello everybody and welcome back to Paul Ricard. Welcome to the Clio Cup series here for the SRO Motorsport Festival this weekend. And as you can see, currently heading out onto circuit is the Clio Cup series. This weekend it's made up of the Clio Cup French series and of course mainly the Clio Cup Europe series as well. So anybody throughout the Clio Cup series that have registered for Clio Cup Europe can come and join us this weekend. So as we mentioned here at Paul Ricard, from the circuit's birth right the way back in, I think it was 1969, so it's a very long-lasting circuit indeed. It's seen the likes of some very, very high sort of status championships, and we're only adding to that this weekend with the SRO Festival, just continuing Paul Ricard's famous run of series. Myself, Jack Werrell, will be running you through all of the action here this weekend. Of course, we are currently out for qualifying, the first one of this weekend, and then later on throughout the weekend we will obviously have a race later on today, and that will be heading into the night. So we will plunge into darkness for the first race of the weekend, and then tomorrow, first thing in the morning, we get qualifying 2 underway before we get the second and final race of the weekend underway later on this afternoon. The big question this weekend is, will the first titles be won here at Paul Ricard? And of course, it's all down to what happens throughout this weekend. So the home stretch is sort of fast approaching for the Clio Cup Series competitors, and it's all really down to who is going to get their hands on that trophy towards the end of this weekend. So on home soil, the Clio Cup France competitors will be keeping a particularly close eye on the action, while David Pouget, of course GPA racing driver, he could be crowned Clio Cup Series champion this Sunday. And whilst he will also be keeping his focus above all on Clio Cup France, he could also be the Clio Cup Europe champion throughout this weekend. He only has a 2-point lead over his rival Nicolas Millar, and Nicolas, he knows what he's doing. He has 8 titles to his name. David Pouget is keen to get his first, so it is all down to how not only qualifying goes but the racing throughout this weekend. Drivers to watch naturally have to be David Pouget and Nicolas Millar. Florian Venturi, he's been very quick throughout this season. He's only getting quicker and quicker, and he is of course here this weekend. The Schimpf brothers, the Schimpf twins, are very quick as well. Unfortunately, we do have a driver missing, Alex Finkelstein. He's recently become a father, so whilst it's all good news for him, other drivers such as Jeremy Bodagaray, Alexandre Albuy and Florian Venturi, just a couple, they hope to take advantage of the absent Finkelstein, and they could potentially seize third place in the championship. So the first car's coming over the line to start their first sort of competitive lap at the moment, and then we will slowly start to see how everybody falls into place and how we can expect the drivers to line up, because of course they're not all racing for overall positions. You may see some in-class rivalries as well, because we have the Racers Cup and the Challengers Cup. So the Racers Cup is for drivers over 26-year-old, and they've either have less than 10 meetings experience in motorsport or have never achieved a better result in a race than 5th in the general ranking. Or if you're in the Challengers Cup, that's for the slightly younger drivers, anywhere between 16 and 25 as of the start of this year, or it is for drivers with a minimum of 10 Clio Cup meetings experience. So it really does cater for all experiences and all ages, does the Clio Cup series. And of course it is split up into various different series within Clio Cup Europe, because of course you have Clio Cup Europe, but you also have Clio Cup Italia, Clio Cup France, Clio Cup Mid-Europe and Clio Cup España, obviously the Spanish Clio Cup. So all of those are eligible for the drivers, and naturally you can pick 2 of those, whether it be Clio Cup France and Clio Cup Europe, meaning you get to travel a little bit further afield, or if you want to do France and Spain, you can score points in those respective championships. So you can have, in some cases, 2, maybe even 3 championships all fighting for at once: Clio Cup Europe, Clio Cup France, and in the case of some, the Racers Cup as well, or the Challengers Cup, depending on what classification you fall into. So 5 minutes of the session has already elapsed. In terms of times we're looking at the moment, of course, the times on the board are still including their out laps, so we will just have to wait and see where the drivers fall into place. Currently looking at David Pouget, he is being chased down by the number 25 machine. That's Alexandre Albuy, his teammate. So for the moment, we could see these 2 drivers working together throughout this qualifying session. Currently working their way in towards turn 12, and then it's almost like a slight right kink through turn 13 into 14 of Lac, and then they will be into the final corner of Pont before they start the run down that long start-finish straight and then dive towards turn one once again. 5.8 kilometres, 3.63 miles, circuit Paul Ricard. So they've got a lot of tarmac to cover. Through the final corner flicks David Pouget, still being chased down by Alex Alboui. And will we see a potential competitive time straight off the bat from David Pouget? There's been mixed bag throughout the practice sessions this weekend. So across the line, naturally, they will launch their way to the top of the times. Alex Alboui in that draft. And naturally, he gets on to pole position with a 2-minute 31.189. David Pouget settles in second with a 2-minute 31.317, what 1.5 tenths back. Then it is the Schimpf brothers, Alejandro and Adrian Schimpf, third and fourth respectively, and they're only a couple of tenths apart between the pair of them at the moment. Adam Sasha has joined them up towards the top 5. Well, he had until Luca Franca took a massive leap up the timetable, a 2-minute 32.192, and it is all shuffling in the mid-pack further down. We're seeing lots and lots of personal quick laps being set. Nicolas Milan goes to the top of the times with a 2-minute 30.093. What a way to kick off his weekend. Aurélien René is also up there. He's now starting provisional P2, a 2-minute 30.613, still half a second away from what was the pole time, because now Jerzy Spinkovic has gone to the top of the times, half a second clear with a 2-minute 30.093. So Jerzy really doing well, one of the only Polish drivers that we've got out there in the Clio Cup Series this weekend. And going very slowly towards us is Matteo Polini. So maybe not all is well with that car. It's sort of limping round. I'm not sure whether it's sort of gone into a sort of drive safe home mode, or he's just trying to build a gap. All will be revealed, I'm sure, in a few moments' time. But at the moment, Jerzy Spinkovic on provisional pole with Aurélien René sat there in second place. We're still looking at the two GPA teammates, GPA racing teammates working together. David Pouget and Alexander Alboui working their way through the very, very quick turn 10. Before you can very easily get caught off guard at turn 11, because you want to apex early and keep that car hugged in. Occasionally you can wash to the middle of the circuit, but you have to make sure you then get the second apex for turn 11, because all that then sets you up is for turn 12, which is almost interlinked to the next two corners. So turn 10 is fairly important. Turn 11 very, very important indeed. David Pouget flicking his way through turn 12. Is still towing around Alexander Alboui, and finally going again potentially is 57 of Matteo Polini. He looks like he's back up to racing pace, unless he was waiting for somebody, and he's spun through 180 degrees. I'm guessing that looks like the final corner, potentially turn 15. Has he gone a bit too hot into there? All will be revealed. But David Pouget through the final corner with 12 minutes of the session remaining. The order remains as it is at the moment, but Aurélien René still chasing him down across the line. Do we see improvements? Yes, we do. David Pouget to the top of the times, a 2-minute 29.189. Alexander Alboui follows suit with a 29.292. Adrian Schimpf throws his way up the order with a 2-minute 29.696. Jerzy Spinkovic, provisional pole sitter earlier on, has been knocked down to fourth. Aurélien René is still sat there in fifth at the moment. Nicolas Milan down to sixth, but he will be coming towards the line in a few moments' time, potentially to better his time. Somebody else coming closer and closer to the line has just crossed the line. That is René Stiemetz, and it's all shuffling further back. You can't keep up with the timing tower at the moment. So Luca Franca is starting third provisionally at the moment. Adrian Schimpf in fourth. Giacomo Trebi is sat there. He was in seventh. He's now down to eighth for the moment. So the 116 driver, that being Giacomo Trebi, he's got a bit of work to do. However, we can't see anybody improving as of yet because of full course yellow. So naturally the drivers will have to slow down to make sure that any sort of issue can be resolved. And that is Nicolas Milan diving up the inside of the number 19 machine, Gian Alberto Colandi, and gets the move done. But of course that will slow him down and potentially compromise the next lap as well. So Gian Alberto Coldani, he won't be best impressed with that, I don't think. Nicolas Milan squeezed his way up through the inside. He was being hunted down by his Milan competition teammate, Jeremy Bordagai. So there's a bit of work to do by the looks of it from those two. They're now being split by a couple of cars, one of which being the 24 of Aurélien René, which we saw good things from earlier on throughout the season. But the full course yellow remains out. Yet to understand exactly why that could be. Debris down at turn 9 by the looks of that, and that is Montreal, the chicane that you can see the cars emerging from in the background. By the looks of that, that has since been retrieved by the brilliant marshals here at Paul Ricard, and we will be able to go back under green flag conditions, and we can now start to see improvements. Of course, they will have to complete this lap, and then they can set up for what could be another competitive lap as well, with just under 10 minutes of the session remaining now. we've probably still got, looking at the times, 3, potentially 4 good laps to be chalked up in the book. And we've got a couple of cars already working their way through the final sector, potentially onto a quick lap, one of which being car number 33, Mikael Fay for GM Sport. He's working his way down in towards turn 1. But look at this train at the moment. At the head of that train is Luca Franca. So he's got all the pressure on him, but arguably the advantage goes to the cars behind, because they will have the sort of additional aerodynamic assistance. Couldn't quite pick out the number on that car that was just working its way through turn 11, but they have clearly picked up some debris. I saw it in the shot earlier, and I thought that would have been the original reason for the yellow flag, but it has stuck to that car, and that could potentially induce some cooling issues, as it is covering a part of the front grille. But this time they have swapped around, so Alexandre Albuy will lead David Puget onto his next flying lap, using all of the circuit and a little bit more. You can see the cars in the background flying into shot, back out of shot, one of which, or both of which, were the Adrian and Alejandro Schimpf twins. A big lock-up from Alexandre Albuy. He gets the car slowed down. It won't be the quickest line in the world. You can see he's had to wash wide there with the extra speed. He couldn't quite scrub off on the brakes. We are seeing a couple more swaps around in terms of times, I think. At the moment, that is just the drivers breaking the beam once again. A personal fastest, overall fastest sector 1 that time through from David Puget. So he goes onto the straight and dives down towards turn 8 and 9, the chicane halfway down, just to kill off an extra little bit of speed. This was the big lock-up from Alexandre Albuy. So you can see the inside rear wheel lifting off the ground, and as he just put a bit of rotation into the car, getting it in towards the apex, naturally that unloaded the inside front, induced a lock-up which will have cost him time and potentially flat-spotted that tyre quite substantially. So that could be the thorn in his side for the rest of this session. Jože Spinkovic back up the time a little bit more. He's up into provisional P4 at the moment, still with that 2 minute 29.640. David Puget through the speed trap goes faster than anybody has this session, so really making the most of the aerodynamic assistance. Flying towards us through the heat haze is Luca Franca, and he will be on a flying lap. Whereabouts is Luca at the moment? We'll have a quick look. He is currently provisional P3. He set a personal fastest sector 1, as has pretty much everybody, so we're going to see lots of improvements this time by. The GPA Racing teammates have swapped around, so David Puget has reaped the rewards from the aerodynamic assistance and thrown his way in front of his teammate and potentially on towards securing that provisional pole position by a little bit more. He's only a 10th clear of Alexandre Albuy as we speak, working his way through turn 13 on the brakes for 14, which is quite a tight left-hander. You can see the inside rear wheel just lifting into the air, so stiffly sprung are these Gen 5 Clio Cup cars. And now in towards the final corner, quite a deceptive right-hand hairpin. And then they will run towards the line, and will we see a substantial improvement? It was an overall fastest sector 1, a personal fastest sector 2, and he was fastest through the speed trap. Yes, even further on to provisional pole position with a 2 minute 28.523, 3/4 of a second clear of his teammate who was trailing him across the line, Alexandre Albuy. Adrian Schimpf goes up to P3 with a 2 minute 29.370. So we are seeing further improvements. We've got a pack of cars working its way through turns 11, 12, 13 and 14 at the moment. They really do stretch that long, and then you get a sort of a bit of a break before back to another pack at the moment. Leading that main pack by the looks of that is that car number 91 of Luca Franca. The second pack is being led by the number 5 machine, that being Nicolas Millau. We saw him fighting to get to the front of that pack. Currently working his way through the shot is Adrian Schimpf, so he is looking to ever further improve his position. At the moment, he is provisional P3. He's just working his way through the latter stages of sector 1 before he jumps onto the straight once again. It's the quick left at Mistral, which he works his way through now, and then onto the straight and just changing up through the gears, ready to jump on the brakes, sighting in your braking point for the chicane. David Puget with his indicator on, I think letting Alexandre Albuy know that he wants him to go by, and there you go, perfect communication between the two teammates. Jože Spinkovic now up to provisional P2 with a 2 minute 28.846, so he is only, what, 3 and a bit tenths away from provisional pole position. Aurélien René is up into provisional P3 with a 2 minute 29.234. Alexandre Albuy remains in provisional P4. We have seen an improvement from the number 84 machine, that's Matteo Lancelotti. He is now in provisional P5 with a 2 minute 29.353, only 2 thousandths clear of Nicolas Millau, so absolutely absolutely nothing between them. The gaps are getting smaller and smaller and smaller. At the moment, the top 22 only covered by 2.5 seconds. Of course, this session has been split by around a full course yellow. So that will slowly start to affect things as the session wears on. There is the number 91 machine we mentioned earlier, Luca Franca. He's dropped down a couple of places from where he started, and he's fallen away in that pack. And now we're seeing the two GM Sport teammates fighting away. That is Guillaume Mayo having a little battle, a little look up the inside. There is Luca Franca. Is this the move that we saw the swap? Yes, it was. So up the inside went the number 60 machine, that being Leonardo Arduini for the Challengers Cup he is in throughout this season. He's scoring points in Clio Cup Europe and Clio Cup Italia, so it's going to set up a fairly good weekend for him, I would suspect. Traffic trying to get out of the way as best as possible. I think they're trying to jump out of the way of the number 31 machine. Yes, indeed, that is Jeremy Bordagaray. He's currently chasing down Nicolas Milan. There is debris down at turn 4. That's ideally where you don't want it. It's sort of quite a long left-hander, and if your eyes are already set on turn 5 by that point, the last thing you want to do is give yourself a puncher, especially with 3.5 minutes of the session remaining. So at the moment, David Puget still on pole, Jerzy Spinkovic still P2, Aurélien René still P3, but we've got a field of cars working their way through the final corner now, and we could potentially see some more improvements. One of which being Nicolas Milan, runs slightly wide but avoids the cone. He could be safe on track limits for that one. David Puget with an overall fastest sector 1 this time, so we could see further improvements from our current provisional pole sitter. Nicolas Milan good enough for the front of the second row at the moment with a 2 minute 29.031, half a second clear, or half a second away from David Puget, pardon me. He's got a bit of work to do, and he's got a 10th.5 to find if he wants to join him on the provisional front row of the grid. Car number 24, that is Aurélien René. He is the driver that got demoted after Nicolas Milan's improvement last time through. So there's still a bit of work to do and still a bit of time out there, I would suspect. But with, 3 minutes of the session remaining, we're going to see 2 more laps maximum for some of the drivers. Maybe 3 if you're up towards the middle part of the circuit now. But we have a look at change. That is car number 24, Aurélien René, the driver we were looking at just a few moments ago, bouncing over the curbs up onto 2 wheels. Very well held, Mr. René. He threw the car up and almost kept his foot planted and knew that he would eventually come back down towards the shot. First is car number 95, that is Adam Sasha for Seven Hills Motorsport. He's throwing his car in towards the turn 10 section at the moment. Or in towards the chicane, pardon me, in towards the Montreal chicane, turn number 8 and turn number 9. Jeremy Bordagaray working his way through said chicane as well. David Puget still at the moment bringing his teammate around the circuit, Alexander Alboui, just punching that hole in the air. With 2 minutes of the session remaining, they will be going on to their final lap, but we had an overall fastest sector 1 from David Puget. A personal fastest through the speed trap. Will we see an improvement from David Puget? 2 minute 28.523 to beat. Across the line he will go. And do we see an improvement? No, we don't that time through. A bit of a slower lap from David Puget. Nicolas Milan remains within touching distance in 3rd place at the moment. So this is what's under investigation potentially. As car number 44, that being Venice Schunker, I'm not sure whether he got elbowed or just caught slightly off guard with the cars up the inside. Car number 84, that being Mattia Lancelotti. We saw him from earlier on and bouncing over the curbs all on 2 wheels. And that seems to be an ever occurring appearance here at Paul Ricard. The curbs aren't too high, but clearly enough just to flick the cars up onto 2 wheels, which isn't that impressive when you see them spend most of their time on 3 wheels for the most part. There's a bit of debris at turn 8 by the looks of it, a very quick section of the circuit. That is at the end of the straight, the last place you would want any sort of debris. So there's the incident involving cars number 21 and 57 under investigation, 21 being Stefan Polderman and 57 that being Matteo Polini for Essa-Corse. So into the pit lane comes the 125 machine. That is Jerzy Spinkovic at the moment. He is on the front row of the grid provisionally, but we won't see an improvement from him as in the pit lane with 35 seconds remaining. So Jerzy Spinkovic has put a lot of hope in that lap. Maybe he knew he wasn't going to improve something with the car potentially he can feel. We're not seeing any major improvements towards the top half. We could see an improvement this time through from Guillaume Mayo. At the moment he's down in 16th place, but he set a personal fastest sector 1, a personal fastest sector 2. So the driver of the number 99 machine. Whereabouts is he? I'd imagine he's coming towards the line in a few moments' time. I can't quite pick him out on the tracker at the moment, but Nicolas Milin still working his way around the Paul Ricard circuit, giving a helpful tow, I'm sure, to his teammate Aurélien Ranet. The checkered flag is being readied, so we will now see cars posting their final laps of the session. Sort of 7th and final laps of the session, maybe even 8th if they were lucky enough to land the flag just right. The first car to take the checkered flag was Florian Colubre. He won't improve with a 2 minute 29.525 and will remain on the cusp of the 5th row of the grid. Provisional P10 for him. David Pouget working his way through the final corner. We won't see an improvement from him. We'll see an improvement from his teammate Aurélien. I don't think we will, looking at the sector splits, but towards the line they will come at the moment. And we may, sorry, it's Alexander Alaboui. We may see an improvement from Alexander Alaboui. He set a personal fastest sector 2. Across the line he will go, and he will not improve by the looks of that. Whereabouts has he gone? Yes, he has improved. A 2 minute 29.175. So a good improvement from Alexander Alaboui. And that puts him on the 2nd row of the grid provisionally. A bit of damage on the first of the Schimpf cars. That will have been, let's have a quick look. So it was Alejandro Schimpf with a bit of damage on the front left-hand side of that car. So David Pouget has crossed the line and will remain where he is on provisional pole. Jerzy Spinkovic is in the pit lane in provisional P2. Whereabouts is Nicolas Milin? He is currently working his way through turn 12 and running towards turn 13. So we could see an improvement potentially from Nicolas Milin. Alexander Alaboui, one of the major improvements that time to work his way to where he is. Let's have a quick look on the tracker. I can't see any major improvements potentially from the number 30 machine, that being Alex Lancelotti. He will come towards the line. What improvements have we got elsewhere? Everybody is remaining as they are, so the top 7, top 10 have now crossed the line, and they all remain as they are. So if we are going to see any inroads and any major changes towards the end of this session, it will be from that mid-pack improving further up. Let's have a quick look what we have. Adrian Schimpf at the moment, 119. One of the Challengers drivers. He's currently on provisional pole position in the Challengers Cup. And Luca Franca is on provisional pole position in the Racers Cup. Adrian Schimpf starting 5th. Luca Franca starting in 7th. And David Pouget, he will tick off another provisional pole. Another pole position now, as I think everybody has crossed the line. So David Pouget following exactly the performance we would expect. And he has got that Clio Cup France title one step closer. That's all he needs to do. He just needs to manage that gap between himself and Nicolas Milin, who will be very close behind, starting from the inside of the 2nd row of the grid, starting in 3rd place. So this is how the session played out. Across the line, we saw a bit of a moment there, and maybe some of the drivers being caught off guard, but it was broken with a full course yellow. But we did see some good improvements at the start, and even better improvements towards the end. But that was the qualifying session. This is how they finished the session. So David Pouget will be starting on pole position with a 2 minute 28.523. Jerzy Spinkovic in 2nd. Nicolas Milin finished in 3rd, and he is, of course, aiming for that title, aiming to snatch it away from David Pouget. Alexander Alaboui, he could play a bit of backup in 4th. Adrian Schimpf, the leading Challengers driver, starting in 5th. And then it is Aurélien Ranet 6th, Luca Franca in 7th, Matteo Lancelotti in 8th, Jeremy Bordagaray in 9th, and Florian Colubre rounds out your top 10. This is how the rest of them line up. Some of the gaps throughout the order are very, very close indeed. Alex Lancelotti and Giacomo Trebi only, 200ths apart, and Leonardo Arduini and Lionel Vigueur only 3,000ths apart. Absolutely nothing in some of the gaps down the order. Adam Sasha and Gian Alberto Coldani, they're only, 200ths apart. So some of the gaps in qualifying are close. Make sure you come back for the race later on this afternoon, later on this evening. Definitely one you need to come back for, because we've just been given a little taste of how the Clio Cup Series will kick off their action here at Paul Ricard. You can see the mass amount of cars we have on the grid this weekend. 43 cars will be joining us. However, we didn't see an outing, unfortunately, from the number 82 machine, Jacopo Giuseppe Jimenez. So in a few moments' time, obviously, we will say goodbye. But please do make sure you come back for the race later on this afternoon, as we will see the drivers drive into the night. Thank you very much for joining us. Thank you for joining the Clio Cup Series. We will see you later on today. Thank you. Bye-bye.